2 years on and off, we have been in touch with each other and associating with each other. And thanks to the restaurant that we opened, we're always in connect with people on the Sattvic platform. It's not only about members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We are all fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us the topmost, philosophy, and Prabhupada was always an essentialist. He gave whatever was essential to attain the goal of human life, which is to be in the service of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna eternally, here and subsequently in his Golok Dham. So he has given us the formula for going back home, back to Godhead, to be in the service of the Supreme Lord eternally. But others who are not in our society, but still they are attempting to be on the Sattvic platform, like the people from the Swaminarayan, the people from the Isha Foundation, people from this Art of Living, and the Jain community, so many other communities who are on the Sattvic platform and searching for the absolute truth. They also deserve the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So whenever they come to the restaurant, naturally, Prabhupada has given us a very rare injection that whomever we see, we try and give Krishna consciousness to them, taking precaution to see that we give that in the appropriate dose to whatever extent they can accept it. So that is our important responsibility. We've been running this restaurant for the last couple of years. Certainly not seen too much money or profits. But however, it's a rare opportunity to present Krishna consciousness to the society as a whole, in a subtle way sometimes, in a direct way sometimes. So that is all happening because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and our wonderful Guru Parampara. So that, I think, is the responsibility of all of us who have got the mercy of Prabhupada and the Guru Parampara to spread the word of Krishna to whatever extent possible in the appropriate dosage required, to one and all. Like Prabhu was mentioning about our preaching to the Lebanese community in Dubai. It's not the Lebanese community. We also had the honor of hosting a program in the World Trade Center once in Dubai, where we had 4 sannyasis of ISKCON, and we called the program as Distress to De-Stress. So it was a very, very nice engagement of 4 half practitioners and 4 sannyasis engaging in a question answer session. And through that process of questions and answers and talks by the 4 Swamis, we were able to package Krishna consciousness in a manner that is appropriate to the audience. And this program, it's a rather proud feeling in one sense that that year was declared as the year of tolerance in UAE. So the year of tolerance was declared in 2019, 1st of January, and our program was there on the 4th of January. So this becomes historically the first ever program in the year of tolerance in UAE. And it came under the patronage of the culture minister of the United Arab Emirates. And with four sannyasis giving association to so many people, the head of the various Islamic groups were there, and the police chief was there, and we had advised all the devotees to come in suits. We were undercover devotees, and only the sannyasis, we had taken the permission that they would come in saffron. So it was a very, very nice program that we did. And the whole process of Krishna consciousness, while we preach Krishna consciousness, is to touch the hearts of people wherever we go. And surely the four sannyasis were able to manage to do that. At least two of the heads of the Islamic community, one is the Bori Muslim community, head of that community, and then the head of the Aga Khan Foundation. Both these people, when we told them that they should, the program is over and they should have dinner now, we didn't call it prasadam, but it was all offered, prasadam. So when we said that, he said, no, our stomachs are full, and if we have to eat, then we will eat only with the sannyasis. So they grew so fond of these two sannyasis, or four sannyasis, that they had dinner with the sannyasis. So we all know that the Shastras say that a moment's association with a sannyasi is enough to give you the perfection in spiritual life. So what did we do? We didn't irritate anyone. We didn't make any controversial statements. If we had, then I would have been still having biryani in one of the jails in the Gulf. But besides that, that is the right way to actually go about it, where we keep touching the hearts of people. Because Krishna consciousness is a very, very voluntary activity, isn't it? There is no one who can be forced to take up Krishna consciousness. It has to come voluntarily from their heart. And how to do that? We can do that only by inspiring them to hear Krishna Katha and practice Krishna consciousness. Katha is the best way to understand the tattva of Krishna consciousness. We have heard the Putana story so many times over, but we still don't get bored listening to that Katha. Because Krishna's pastimes, Krishna Katha is transcendental to the material world. So therefore we never get bored of it. And here we are, we have been presented with an opportunity to hear these wonderful pastimes of Putana and how she got liberation from the material world We will see that in the next half an hour to 45 minutes. After that, we'll try and engage in some question answer session. I do not have the support of the expert today, His Grace Achyuta Arjun Saka Prabhu. But there are others, I'm sure. If I'm unable to answer any of the questions, then they will be able to help me out. So we'll do it more in the nature of questions and try to sincerely understand the significance of this Leela of Krishna and why Krishna chose the Putana pastime first among his pastimes. After his appearance in the material world, Putana's pastime was the first before he launched into other pastimes of his. Of course, his appearance itself is a wonderful pastime, but as such, the activity of Krishna in killing Putana was the first of its kind among the various demons that he finished off when he came down to the earth planet to give us his mercy. So we'll see that and try to sincerely draw lessons from this katha, which will help us in our process of Krishna consciousness. So before we do that, we will sing Jai Radha Madhava. Prabhu did mention that I'm a good kirtanier, but devotees, in the interest of glorifying others, they sometimes even speak wrong things. Certainly, I'm not a good kirtanier. I wanted to get Kishore along for the program so that she could do kirtan, but she's just recovering from a viral infection. So we will still attempt doing some kirtan. We all know traditionally how Srila Prabhupada always used to sing this Jai Radha Madhava song to bring us to spiritual consciousness and sort of set the mood for listening to Krishna Katha. Because we are all coming from the external consciousness, which is very, very strong. The more we realize it, the more humble we become, and the more humble we become, the more progress we make in Krishna consciousness. So we'll sing Jai Radha Madhava and then speak a little bit on the Katha of Putana as advised by Achyuta Arjun Saka Prabhu. Okay? Right. Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Giri Varadari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brjananda Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radha Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radha Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radha Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radha हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जाए, जन्माष्टमी महोत्सव की जाए, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाए, समवेद भक्त वृंद की जाए। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। नमः ओम। Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vrinda Govinda Swami Nitinamine Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Shivaram Swami Nitinamine Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshavarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Gauratu Senama Brahmanidivaya Go Brahmanitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasa Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. So Janmashtami is close by, and the leaders of our society are making a move in the right direction in trying to uplift the consciousness of the devotees here by meditating on Krishna Katha. And every time there is a Janmashtami celebration, there is always 2 or 3 often quoted slokas. So we will also quote those slokas to understand the importance of Krishna Katha and how it makes a very significant, plays a significant role in development of our Krishna consciousness. First, we have to understand how the Supreme Avatari, the cause of all avatars and incarnations, decides by his causeless mercy to become an avatar and come down, descend to the material world. And when he does so, what are the reasons why he comes down to the material world? So, the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Transcendental Knowledge. Before that chapter, it was the Karma Yoga instructions which came in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita 3rd chapter in the discussions of Karma Yoga gave us instructions on doing service to the Lord continuously in a mood of ahaituki. Now, without any expectation of profit, Krishna advises everyone to do service. In a world that operates with what's in it for me, it's very, very tough to expect anyone to do that type of service. So therefore, between the 3rd and the 5th chapter, which is primarily instructions on Karma Yoga and perfection in Karma Yoga, Krishna introduces a chapter which is the 4th chapter, which discusses transcendental knowledge about himself. So in that, in the 8th sloka of the 4th chapter, Krishna says, what is the purpose of his descent to the material world? So he says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstarpanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So he says, I come to the world with 3 main purposes. These are the technical reasons why Krishna wants to descend to the earth planet. What are those 3 reasons? First is Paritranaya Sadhunam. That is, he wants to protect the sadhus or the devotees of the Lord. That is his primary aim. So that is the first reason why he descends to the earth planet, Paritranaya Sadhunam. Then the second reason why he comes to the earth planet is Vinashaya cha Dushkritam. So to destroy the demons or the miscreants. That is purpose number 2. Dharma samstarpanarthaya. To re-establish the principles of religion, he says he comes down, Sambhavami, Yuge, Yuge. So these are the 3 purposes why Krishna comes down to the earth planet. These are the external reasons, and these are the technical reasons that he gives in the Bhagavad Gita as to why he comes down to the earth planet. But these 3 things of Paritranaya Sadhunam, Vinashaya cha Dushkritam, and Dharma Samstarpanarthaya, he could very well do sitting in his Golok Dham. There is no reason for him to come down to the earth planet and do these 3 activities, right? What is the internal reasons why he comes down to the earth planet? So the internal reasons are for executing his causeless mercy to all of us, to encourage us to come to Krishna consciousness and to associate with his devotees in the earthly planet. So these are his internal and reasons why he comes down to the earth planet. So Krishna always wants, desires that we all take up Krishna consciousness, take our spiritual life seriously, and go back home, back to Godhead, where we actually belong, where we can be in a permanent state of bliss and happiness. So he wants to encourage all of us. How does he do it? By personally coming down and performing various leelas which attract us to the process of Krishna consciousness. In the very next sloka, he says that when you hear my pastimes, how should you accept my pastimes? And with what consciousness you will actually accept my pastimes? Yeah? So that is mentioned in the 9th sloka of the 4th chapter, where he says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So he says, Janma karma chame divyam. Divyam means transcendental. Janma is his birth and karma is his activity. So we should understand that Krishna's appearance and activities or pastimes are divyam or transcendental to the modes of material nature. And this is the truth. Evam yo veti tatvataha. If you accept this as the truth, then tyaktva deham punarjanma. When we give up this body at the end of this lifetime, punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. There is no birth and death after you give up this body. So that is Krishna's mentioning in the 9th sloka of the 4th chapter. So we all know that this is the mood of accepting is janma and karma. If you consider is janma and karma to be normal mundane activity, then you will not be able to get spiritually enlivened and make spiritual progress. So, accepting this verse, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, that you accept this Janma and Karma to be transcendental, you are associating with the pure transcendence. Yeah? So when you're associating with transcendence, that's when you make spiritual progress. God has kindly accepted this form of a human being. He descended and assumed the mood of a simple village boy, even though he has a completely pure spiritual body. So, if we accepted his Janma and Karma as transcendental, then we also transcend the three modes of material nature. Actually, his pastimes are compulsory for the government leaders, as we saw in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. For all government leaders, they should be made a compulsory topic. Irrespective of what his innermost beliefs and philosophy is, whenever you see the Prime Minister of the company talk anywhere, he would always make sure to include some kind of a spiritual talk in that, a sloka from somewhere, something he always does. So that is actually the responsibility of all the government leaders, that they must have the capacity to understand the leelas of the Lord. So Maharaj Parikshit, we all know, is the Raja Rishi Sattama, that is the best of all saintly kings. And who was the other main hero of the Srimad Bhagavatam? It was none other than Sukadev Goswami, the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he was considered as the Muni Sattama, or the topmost of all Munis. So the Muni Sattama is speaking to the Raja Rishi Sattama, that is Maharaj Parikshit, who was also a Raja and he was also a Rishi. And just imagine the greatness of the personality Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit was actually the emperor of all the three worlds. There is nothing in the material world which he did not own. There is so much to, talk about his glory. And in spite of that, Maharaj Parikshit surrendered everything for just his enlightenment, listening to Vasudeva Katha. Yeah. So he had the ruchi for Vasudeva Katha. So in the opening chapter of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 16th verse, wherever Krishna Katha happens, it is mentioned that there are three beneficiaries of the Krishna Katha. Who are those three beneficiaries of the Krishna Katha? Let's repeat this verse, which is Vasudeva Katha Prashna Purusham Strin Punatihi Vaktaram Prachakam Shrotrams Tatpada Salilam Yatha. The Ganges emanating from the toe of Lord Vishnu purifies the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. Similarly, when one questions about the pastimes and characteristics of Lord Vasudeva Krishna, three varieties of men are purified. Okay? Please listen to this. Hence, the speaker or the preacher, he who inquires, and the people in general who listens to Krishna Katha, all the three people are purified. Who are the three people mentioned here? One is the Vaktaram. Vaktaram is the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the second beneficiary is the second beneficiary is the Prachakam. Yeah? Prachakam is the person who is making the inquiry. into spiritual truth, which is Maharaj Parikshit, as we all know in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Shrotam, that is the people in general, yeah, who are listening to the topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first beneficiary in this case is actually the Srimad Bhagavatam speaker. And I'm fortunate to be the speaker of the day today because I am the greatest beneficiary of today's morning program. And then also the people who are making inquiries and also the people in general. So the entire society of Kannamangala is actually benefiting from this discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. We must have firm faith in the words of the speaker, words of the scripture, that the entire society is getting benefited just because a few of us have gathered here and we are discussing topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam is to be heard through the medium of the heart, as Lord Brahma got the knowledge of the entire scriptures. In the very first verse, what is mentioned? Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Brahma did not have a bookshelf, and the whole Vedas in the bookshelf and the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, he didn't have any of those things because he was the most intelligent person in the material planet, occupying the topmost of the material planet Satyaloka. So, by dint of his devotion and meditation on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye, he was implanted with all the knowledge of the scriptures in a capsule form in a split second. He got the mercy of the Lord. How? By dint of his devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Maharaj Parikshit, we see, is in a state of great eagerness to learn about the incarnation of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He heard how the 6 sons were killed, yeah, and there was a fear already in Kamsa for the 8th child which is going to come up. And by act of providence, Balaram entered Devaki's womb and transferred to, there was a womb transplant, yeah, to the womb of Rohini by manipulation of Yoga Maya. This is what we saw in the chapter 1 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then chapter 2, not only is Maharaj Parikshit eager to hear about these pastimes, the Devatas are all eager to see Lord Krishna appear in the material world. And there were prayers by the demigods to Lord Krishna in the womb of Devaki still, which is called as the Garbhastuti prayers. We saw that in the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then in the 3rd chapter, we saw the birth of Lord Shri Krishna in Vishnu form. He came down as in the 4-handed form of Vishnu, and Vasudeva was struck with wonder. He and Devaki gave away 10, because they were still in captivity of the jail. By their mind, they donated 10,000 cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Now, so that is why we always say that Yashoda Maya's bhakti is superior to even Vasudeva and Devaki. Vasudeva and Devaki, they were able to see the form of Krishna in his all his splendor as Mahavishnu in his 4-handed form. So, which means that their bhakti was no doubt unparalleled, but it was still Jnana Mishra Bhakti. It was mixed with the Jnana that their son Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas you try telling that to Yashoda Maya, that your son is Bhagavan, he'll say, what are you talking? He is my child. He needs my protection. And so hers was a bhakti which was not mixed with any other thing. It was completely unalloyed love for Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom she always thought as her darling son, who always needed protection and help from the mother. So nothing was coming in between her and Sri Krishna to perform her service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the beauty of the love that Yashoda Maya had. It is said that if you kind of add all the love which the mothers of the universe had, yeah, so all the universe's mothers, if you add all their love for their children, it amounts to a mustard seed of love that Yashoda had for Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it was Jnana Mishra Bhakti in the case of Devaki and Vasudeva. And then we saw in the chapter 4 the various atrocities that were committed by Kamsa from the Kamsa Nagari or Mathura. So he went, he got the information that the seventh child was about to be born. By then, the womb transplantation has already happened, and Yogamaya had come there. So, and Yogamaya, when he was about to be smashed, she said, "This is a daughter, why do you kill the daughter? It's only the eighth son who is going to be a danger." But Kamsa would hear none of that. He went and attempted to kill her, but then Yogamaya slipped out of her hand. She was like appearing as Durga in her eight-handed form and simply slipped away. And not only she slipped away, she also made an announcement that the eighth son is already born. You fool Kamsa, and you are trying to harm me. So Yogamaya and Sri Krishna were born around the same time. That is why the transcendentalists even today are fighting whether you pray to the Shakti or the Shaktiman. Yeah. So there are a lot of people who say Shakti is supreme. There is other set of transcendentalists who say no, Shaktiman is supreme. But as devotees of the Lord, we understand that Yogamaya is none other than the internal potency of the Lord, which we must all take shelter of. So then the ministers, after this happened of Kamsa, they're all demons and Rakshasas, they gave advice saying that please, O king, I think all the children who are born, don't take the prophecy of this girl who was slipped away from your hands. Take the prophecy very seriously. Make sure that all the children who are born in the last 10 days in Kamsanagari must be killed. The Rakshasas, by their intrinsic nature, are against the Brahmanas, the cows, the Vedas, the austerity, truthfulness. All these are different angas of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they are intrinsically against all these things. Anything that is connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Rakshasas are against it. So the cows and Brahmanas were being systematically persecuted as per on the advice of the ministers. Kamsa was executing his plan. A lot of atrocities was committed all over Vrajabhumi. So in the meantime, Nanda Maharaj, even though he was a transcendental person, an ordinary person cannot become the father of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He accepted just as Krishna accepted the role of a village boy, Nanda Maharaj accepted the customs of ordinary people and followed the etiquette to protect his city, he went to Mathura. There was a system that there was excise duty is not a today's concept. Excise duty existed then too. Yeah, excise duty is a tax on production, right? That's what excise duty is. Yeah. So whenever there is a production in a factory, whatever is the produce, you pay the excise duty to the government on at a certain percentage. So all the production of milk in the city of Gokul, yeah, on that a tax has to be paid. So Nanda Maharaj dutifully made a record of whatever annual production of milk took place, and then he goes to Mathura to pay his excise duty commitment to Kamsa Maharaj. Okay. So there, since he has gone there, naturally he met his old friend Vasudev. You cannot even explain how dear they were to each other. So they had transcendental chit chat and talks, and they hugged each other, respected each other, showed their reverence for each other. And after some time, suddenly Vasudev became very serious. He says, Nanda Maharaj, I would never like to tell you this, but please go back immediately to Gokula because I can see some danger coming upon Gokula. Now, Nanda Maharaj was a devotee of the Lord. He thought that this was the transcendental vision of Vasudeva, which in fact is not untrue, it is not false, but actually Vasudeva was giving his political discourse. He could understand what will be the strategy of Kamsa, and therefore there will be some danger that is coming upon Gokul, and naturally the danger will be centered around Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Nanda Maharaj, with a heavy heart, leaves Vasudev and goes back to Gokul on the advice of Vasudev. So he took complete shelter of the Supreme Controller and started his journey back to Gokul. In the meantime, there was one lady, her name was Putana. Putana is a super witch, yeah, the best demoness of all times. So this Putana had a speciality. She was engaged by Kamsa to kill babies. That was the nefarious duty entrusted upon by King Kamsa to Putana. So Putana goes to Gokula. She was in outer space, and the witch Putana had a special, capacity. She could just sit on a stick and fly from place to place. Yeah, and she had the capacity to change her form as well. So Putana changed her form into the most beautiful woman in the material world, and she could move from place to place according to her desire, and she could travel without machines, as we discussed. No need of any kind of airplane for travel. So she was transformed herself into the most beautiful woman of all times. She had the most wonderful hips, slim and slender waist, big bosoms, and she was dressed nicely, and she was wearing a garland of mallika flowers, brilliant earrings she was wearing, and all the Vrajavasis, including the men of Vrajadam, got attracted to Putana. She was so beautiful. The gopis really thought that she was actually the goddess of fortune who has come to Gokula to serve her Lord Narayan in the form of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there was a magazine called Society. Yeah? So the society girls of heaven, they were also thinking how beautiful is this Putana, and they started making fun of the most beautiful people in heaven. They said, "Oh, Urvashi, you are not anything more than a beggar now. Look at Putana, how beautiful she is." Yeah. So you can imagine the kind of beauty Putana had. And then there was also Ramba, yeah, another society girl in heaven. So she said, "Oh, Ramba, you should actually be a consort of a frog. That is the level of your beauty." Can you imagine? And then Menaka, they looked at Menaka and had a hearty laugh at Menaka itself. And these are all personalities who captivates with their beauty all the devatas in heaven as well. So there was one more, what is her name? Gitachi. She was also another society beautiful girl in heaven. They said that you have the fame of melted butter. Yeah, that is the kind of beauty you had, but now you are looking like a crematorium covered by water. Yeah. So this was the kind of talk that was going on in the heavenly planet after seeing the beauty of Putana. And Putana just entered the home of Nanda Maharaja's house. She was completely unobstructed. Nobody stopped her, or without permission, she actually entered the home of Nanda Maharaj. So stage is getting set. Putana could understand now. Even it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, Tesham Satat, in the 10th chapter, 10th verse, what does Krishna say? He says, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Dadhami Bhukti Yogam Tam Yenamam Upayanti Te. So you just do, what is the method of getting knowledge in spiritual life? Tesham Satata Yuktanam. Always engage in the worship of the Lord. Yeah, and then Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. How do you do this? By Priti, or execute your devotional service with Priti, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. And then, if you do this, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Krishna will give you the knowledge about himself. That is the system of getting knowledge on spiritual topics. Yenamam upayantite. So Putana was none of this. She was not doing satatam, tesham satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam. She was far away from it. But Putana, the moment he entered and had vision of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she could understand that Lord Krishna is not an ordinary person, and he is the person meant to kill demons. Yeah? When a devotee is told Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, we do that. We engage in Kirtan, we engage in Shravanam and Kirtanam. But a demon, even though she gets the messages, she does not, accept these messages. Yeah. So she is in a state of illusion of, as all demons are. Tribir Gunabair Bhavir Ebihi Sarvamitam Jagat Mohitam Nabijanati Mamebhya Param Avyayam. What is the mentality of a demon? Is explained in the 7th chapter, 13th sloka of the Bhagavad Gita, where the demon is deluded by the three modes. And in that state of disillusionment, she or he does not understand that mohitam nabijanati, completely mohit or disillusion. And in that state of disillusionment, mamebhya paramabhyayam, will never be able to understand that the Supreme Lord is above the modes and avyayam, meaning inexhaustible. So this was the state of Putana, the great demoness also. And here we find that even Rohini and Yashoda easily permitted her to meet Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But were they also Mohitam Nabi Janati? They were not Mohitam Nabi Janati. They were not disillusioned by the external potency of the Lord, because they were firmly entrenched in the internal potency of the Lord. And internal potency of the Lord, when you take shelter, naturally you want to facilitate the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So they also permitted Putana to meet Sri Krishna. And immediately as she entered, what did Putana do? Putana simply pushed her breast into the mouth of Sri Krishna, and her nipples were also smeared with poison, dangerous poison, which will be immediately acting and kill Sri Krishna. So that was her strong intent. So she had gone there with an intent to kill Sri Krishna with the poison from her breast. Lord Krishna became very angry. What did Lord Krishna do? She squeezed the nipples, squeezed the breast, and sucked out the life of Putana, the great demoness. Yeah, and Putana was in unbearable pain, pain which she has never experienced earlier in her life, and she started crying loudly, "Please leave me, please leave me." And she was crying loudly. Yeah, she was perspiring, her eyes were wide open, and Krishna started giving her kicks besides sucking the life out of her breast. And then, looking at the crying of Putana, the earth, the outer space, and the mountains in Vrindavan, everything started, and even the lower planetary systems. Which are the lower planetary systems? Rasatala, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, and then what Tala? Talatala, and also Patala. So even the 7 planetary systems below started trembling with the shouting of Putana in anguish and pain. Such was the pain that Putana experienced. And Bhagavatam says that Putana in pain left the village of Vrindavan, but other spiritual experts say that Putana was actually thrown out of Vrindavan to the outskirts and outside the city of Vrindavan, because Krishna knew that she is so big that she will destroy many people if she is thrown in the city of Vrindavan. So she was actually thrown out of Vrindavan. In the moment the demon wants to give up the body, then she comes back to her original form. All her mystic powers are gone, and she attains the original form of a Rakshasi, Putana. And you know how big her body was? Her body extended to about 12 miles long. That's about 20 kilometers long. Yeah. So it starts from here and goes up to the other center of ISKCON. 20 kilometers was the length of the body, and she laid down dead. And when she was falling down, the extraordinary and gigantic body smashed so many trees as she fell down in a big thud and thunder. Detailed descriptions in the Srimad Bhagavatam are given as to how the teeth resembled the front of a plow. Each teeth was like a big plow to plow out the life out of you. So, such was the look of the demoness. Her nostrils were looking like, mountain caves. And then her, I don't know what is the connection between the hair and the color of copper. All demons that I've heard of, they always have hair which is copper color. Copper is such a demonly metal, I think. So even Putana had the color of copper as her hair color. These days, many have them. Fortunately, all the ladies here have black hair. Yes. There are many people who have copper hair. They must be manifesting some qualities of a demon. I've seen even boys having copper colored hair, as part of their styling, their style to become demons. At least they are frank, that they are demons. We try to sort of hide that fact, right? We all try to hide that fact. We always try and act holier than thou. At least these people are frank. They say, yes, I am a demon from Kali Yuga. They introduce themselves proudly. So, the eye sockets of Putana were like deep blind wells. Such was the depth. Always, when a person is about to die, the eyes go in a little bit, and that's the indication of death. But in this case, like each socket of the eye was like a deep blind well, and the thighs were looking like banks of a river, and the arms, legs, and feet of Putana were like big bridges, and the abdomen of Putana was looking like a dried up lake. Yeah. So Vrajavasis were just scared even looking at this form of Putana, and the shouting and the noise that was being generated was resonating right through Vrindavan, and they were quite scared. Whereas what was Krishna doing at this time? Without any fear, he climbed on to the top portion of the breasts of Putana, and he was quietly playing there. In the meantime, Yashoda Maya is really scared. Where is her son and who has kidnapped her? And she was crying and wailing. And then finally, the gopis of Vrindavan picked up Krishna from Putana's body and says, don't worry, your Krishna is safe, our Krishna is safe. Because everybody had maternal affection to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then all the ladies of Vrindavan, look at the respect that cows got then. And they had a special significance in the spiritual lives of people. They did Achaman, and they did what is called as the Nyasa Mantra. The Nyasa Mantra is the 12 parts of the body are protected with the dust that has touched the feet of the cows of Vrindavan, to drive away all the evil spirits like the Bhutas, Pretas, Pishachas, Yakshas, and Rakshasas. So everybody was Krishna conscious in the land of Vrindavan. They would always meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead before doing anything whatsoever. And even in the Ayurveda Shastra, it is mentioned, Aushadhi Chintayet Vishnum. Even when you are taking Aushadhi or medicine, you should actually meditate on the forms of Vishnu for the medicine to have any effect. So that is the level of Krishna consciousness which was being practiced then. After all the Nyasa mantras were done by the gopis, then the final test. And what is the final test? If the baby has milk from the mother of her breast normally, that means the child is healthy. So they take the child, Sri Krishna, to Mother Yashoda, and then say, please feed him with milk. Because once he has milk from the breast of the mother, that is a sign of good health. Then the Vrajavasis did not want to take any chances. Krishna is in good health, Nyasa mantra done, he has had milk from the breast of his mother Yashoda. Krishna is in good health. The next is protecting from further danger. And what was the further danger? They cut the gigantic body of Putana into pieces with axes. Why did they do that? Putana is already dead. Because Putana had all the qualities of a snake. The snake sometimes, till it is cut into pieces, does not give up its body. One part of the snake is still alive and can cause harm to people. So they cut Putana into different parts before putting her and burning her to ashes. Yeah. But what was Krishna doing? Krishna accepted the service of Putana, and in this process of showing motherly affection to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she accepted that service. Krishna accepted the service even when he was angry with Putana. It was not because Putana was trying to kill her. Krishna was showing his anger because Putana had killed many children in the land of Vrindavan. So that was his anger when he threw her out of the city of Vrindavan. So, but by this act of Putana serving Krishna as the mother, she was freed of all material contamination, all sinful reactions completely vanquished, and when the body was burned, the smoke that was coming out from the burnt body was having the smell of aguru. Aguru, and there is one more perfume that is typically the smell of Sri Krishna. So that was the smell that was coming out from the aroma that was coming out from the burnt ashes of Putana's body. Putana was always hankering for the blood of children, and she came to Krishna with that desire, but she offered her breast milk. Krishna accepted that as an act of devotional service and granted her liberation. So this was the beautiful pastime of Putana. Even though she came with the intent of a thief with a nefarious plan, she was completely shameless. She was an epitome of cruelty and ignorance. She was having a vicious heart, and she was the sweetest of all deceivers. She was like how they trap elephants, They cover the ground with grass and start chasing the elephant, and the elephant gets deceived and falls into soft grass and trapped in a place which is you cannot come out of it. So she was that type of a person. So in spite of that, Krishna showed his mercy and delivered Putana from the material world. And what are the lessons that we have to learn from Putana? The lessons that we have to learn from Putana is that Putana was an epitome of a fake guru, or a pseudo guru, or we call as dongi guru. So we should never go to fake gurus or pseudo gurus or dongi gurus. The fake gurus always promise you many things, but they are only interested in your pocket, right? So they want to pull the money out of your pocket. The front pocket, if it's empty, then they reach out to the back pocket and make sure that the money is completely emptied. Whereas a real guru who wants to give you instructions doesn't reach out to your external pocket, reaches out to the depth of your heart and removes all the material desires from your heart. So, Putana is an epitome of duplicity, whereas Krishna likes simplicity. Yeah, Putana was an epitome of deceit, and Krishna likes honesty as one of the main qualities that you must have. We are all the time liking to be critical and hypocritical. Yeah. So if you're hypocritical, then there is no mercy that you can forthcome when you are hypocritical. We said interestingly how the first demon that we have to attack, and that's why Krishna has placed this pastime as the first pastime, is the hypocrisy within us. At least myself, I address this to myself, that we are very hypocritical, we are very critical about others, how they perform their devotional service. And there is a lot of duplicity in all of us here. Dhoti, kurta, tilak, we do all that, but that inside us, we all know what we are, right? So therefore, recognize the Putana within us and try to drive away this hypocritical nature of duplicity, and acting spiritual but actually a holier than thou attitude. Yeah. So many times we have been faced with situations where we find that the people who are not in devotional service, they are displaying very excellent qualities. No harm in learning from them. you know we are many times as practicing devotees, I don't know, it's very bewildering even for me, very deceitful, very critical of each other, very hypocritical of each other. you know so we have to give up all those things, because with hypocrisy there is no mercy. And how do we make spiritual advancement? It is defeating this hypocrisy and deceitful and duplicitous nature that we have. Displace simplicity in our Krishna consciousness. Just show how loving relationships are to be maintained among devotees, and I'm sure that we will be successful. So we'll pray for the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, that all of us drive out the Putana within our hearts and become nice devotees. Yeah. And how do we do that? Through this simple process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And in the last verse of this chapter, the 6th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavad Gita, which is known as the Falastuti verse, let us read that verse. And we just now chanted the Maha Mantra, and the mantra or the Maha Mantra or the names of the Lord can do wonders to our hearts and help us transform ourselves into wonderful devotees. The greatest example of that is Dhruva Maharaj, right? What does Dhruva Maharaj do? Dhruva Maharaj left the palace because he was not allowed by his mother to sit on the lap of his father, right? His stepmother did not allow him to sit in the lap of his mother. Look at how the holy names changed the state of mind of Dhruva Maharaj. Within the period of 6 months, he wanted what? He had the intent of being more powerful than his father. What was his father's name? Uttanapada. And what was his grandfather's name? Brahma. He wanted to be more powerful than his own grandfather, Brahma. That's a tall order, right? And then Narada came at that point. Narada is a spiritual master. Narada came and advised him, hey, bacha, Dhruva, please, forget all these things. You're just a 5-year-old boy. You can't survive in the forest. Just go back. Think of these things a little later. Enjoy the comforts of the palace. He told Narada, this is all fine for you because you are a pure devotee of the Lord. I accept that. But I am a Kshatriya. Right now, the Kshatriya blood is running through my stream. And I can't listen to all these correct spiritual instructions. He didn't say that your instructions are wrong. Right now, I cannot listen to correct spiritual instructions. So just allow me to do what you do, what I want to do. And goes to the forest and starts meditating on Vishnu. And look at what happened to him in a period of 6 months. He took one important instruction from his spiritual master Narada, that is, chant God's holy name. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That was the mantra given by his guru to him. He just chanted, and within a period of 6 months, can you imagine? He didn't even need breathe to survive. Every 12 days, he would just breathe once, and that's enough for him. No need of food, no need of water, no need of anything else. Breath every 12 days. This was the perfection that Dhruva Maharaj achieved just through this process of chanting God's holy name. So let us have faith in the words of the Shastra, that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is kindly given by Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara, is enough to transform our lives. It may take time, but let us keep faith in the chanting of the holy name, and certainly we will be successful. The last verse of the 44th the sloka of the 6th chapter of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we said is the Falastuti, is telling us, Ya etat Putana moksham Krishna Shraya Bhakam Adbhutam Shrunayat Shraddaya Martyo Govinda Labate Ratim. Any person who hears with faith and devotion about how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, killed Putana, and who thus invests in hearing in such pastimes of Krishna, certainly attains attachment to Govinda, the Supreme Original Person. All of you came with varying degrees of material attachments. We have heard the katha of Putana. So get ready for what do you call that? FOMO, fear of missing out, because all the material desire is finished. Nothing will be attractive anymore. And here the word Ratim is being used, which is very, very significant. One is Mati, one is Gati, and one is Rati. This is what Srimad Bhagavatam does to us. Mati means a state where the mind is absorbed in Krishna. Gati is accepting Krishna as my only destination. Yeah. But Rati is the topmost of all these things, Mati, Gati, and Rati, where the soul is attracted and attached to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, that is Rati, attraction to Krishna's holy pastimes. And this can be done through this very effective and simple process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Putana Katha ki jai, Krishna Leela ki jai. So, any questions on today's topic, or any other topic related to Krishna consciousness?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So you say Yasoda did not put the concept of this or he was not aware of this. What is the difference in a mother and child relationship, whatever or history, where you was at least my understanding is mothers but the child is unconditional. And his speed of uninterrupted, unintentional. So what is the difference in those two relationships? Mother Yashoda did not know.
Mother Yashoda did not know about
Krishna is a Bhagwan. So what is
Krishna.
the difference between Yashoda, Krishna love versus any ordinary mother and child relationship?
Ordinary mother and child relationship.
How she became the best devotee whereas other mothers in law?
Yeah. First of all, Mother Yashoda is considered as a Nitya Siddha devotee. She is an eternal associate of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of devotee. Whereas Devaki and Vasudev are sadhana siddhas. So, through the process of sadhana, like all of us, we are doing various sadhanas in order to come to a stage of spiritual perfection. So, that essentially is the difference between a normal mother and a transcendental mother. Yashoda Maya and Nanda Maharaj are eternal associates of Sri Krishna. Why we compare the mothers of the universe with Yashoda Maya? We compare them because in the material world, everybody has got an expectation from the other person. It's never ahaituki bhav, love for the other person. So brothers have some expectation from sisters, sisters have some expectations from others. The love is there, but there is an expectation in return as well. Even the father has some expectation that the son will grow up and he will bring fame to me by being well educated, by taking up a good profession, be successful in his profession, and thus he will bring fame to me. So when the child is not behaving himself nicely, the father gets very upset that his dreams are not going to be fulfilled. Whereas the mother is closest to having a Haituki relationship, however bad the child is, she always loves her child. But still, even the mothers in the material universe have some expectation of their children, right? And they see other children performing well, uh, they would always chastise their children and say, look, you cannot afford to be like this. Look at that person's child, look at this person's child. So there is always an expectation on the mother's side also, even though it's of a much lesser degree than the father. But in case of Yashoda, whenever people used to complain about Sri Krishna, that he came to my house and he went straight to the bedroom and pinched the bottoms of my child and made him cry and run away. And oh, forget this, this is nothing. You know, right in the hall, Krishna passed stool, dirtied the whole hall, and I had to do a lot of cleaning to get it set right. Yeah, even to the extent that she did not believe till Balram came and told him that, look, your son is having mud. This is serious, it's bad for his health. That was the soft point for Yashoda because she didn't want anything that is bad for the health of her darling son. So, moment that aspect of Aishwarya comes, and the knowledge comes that your son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it comes in the way of your loving relationship with that person. Yeah. So if Sachin Tendulkar's mother knew that Sachin was going to be the all-time great batsman when she grows up, she would always have that in mind. Oh my God, my son is going to be the greatest cricketer of all times and he will be world famous. Yeah. Then she would even start feeling my son is beautiful. Beauty was never one of his, attributes. Sachin Tendulkar. Only Krishna can have all those Sad Aishwarya in full. So it comes in the way of loving the person. Therefore, Yashoda was never in the consciousness, even when she saw the entire earth in the mouth of Krishna. What was her consciousness? Well, I am a simple village girl, and maybe some person has done some black magic. Villagers are known for black magic, and I'm seeing all the wrong things. Or maybe I had an overdose of antibiotics, so I'm having some, you know, hallucinations. She never thought that her son was the supreme personality of Godhead. She saw the whole universe in her mother's, in her child's mouth, and in that whole universe, she is sitting with her son Krishna and having pastimes in the mouth of Krishna. But in spite of seeing this fantastic Leelas, she never had this consciousness that Krishna is my son. Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. She is just my son looking for my protection. Absolutely no expectations of her son. The only aspect that came to her mind ever was being of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom she thought was just her son. So that is the greatness of her love. And that is exhibited even when you go to Vrindavan. If you go to Dwaraka, you go to any other place, in Dwaraka, like you cannot go and say that, hey Krishna, tu chor hai. You can hear this in Vrindavan, because that's how they relate to the Supreme Personality of God. Whereas in Dwaraka, you are relating to Krishna as the king of so many queens, right? He was the king of Dwaraka. 16,000 queens were there. So there again, the Aishwarya comes in between, right? We have heard this sloka from Brahma Samhita. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Nava Yauvanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktav. No, I'm not getting the right verse. Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Se. What's the beginning of that verse? Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. What's the beginning of that verse? Yes, okay. So this is the Chintamani Prakara Sadmashu Kalpa Vriksha Lakshavrateshu Surabhi Rabipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. This is the nature of the spiritual world. Chintamani, which is the touchstone, Prakara Sadmashu, Kalpa Vriksha, desire trees. All these two things give the same thing. You touch the stone and you just desire something and it gets manifest in front of you. Desire trees. You just look at the lemon tree and desire for mangoes, and you get mangoes from a lemon tree, Kalpa Vriksha. And then Surabhi cows are there. Surabhis are again desire cows, Even Indra had to use the Surabhi cow to go and apologize to Krishna. Because when Krishna sees the Surabhi cows, his heart will melt. So that is the nature of the spiritual world. There is Chintamani, which is touchstone. Kalpa Vriksha, which is desire trees, and the Surabhi cows are there, which are also desire fulfilling cows. They give you the best flavored milk without cholesterol and blood pressure. So Surabhi cows are there. And then what else is the nature of the spiritual planet? Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevyamanam. Thousands and thousands of Lakshmis are serving Mahavishnu in that spiritual planet. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So there is a lot of opulence even in the spiritual world. But Yashoda Maya didn't care for all that Aishwarya Mishra Bhakti and Jnana Mishra Bhakti. It was just Kevala Bhakti, only Bhakti, nothing else. So that was the difference of Yashoda Maya's love when compared to the love of any mother in the universe, even Devaki, who was such an advanced and the most advanced sadhana siddha bhakta of the Supreme Personality of God. Did that answer? Was it too long? Okay. So, yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So I want to ask, prior to Putana, like in the previous birth, Putana was the sister of Raja Bali. So once the Krishna had come in the Vaman avatar, so by seeing the Krishna, she got a hatred saying that, if he would have been my son, I would have given him poison. So due to that, Krishna said, okay, he will fulfill his wish. So she reincarnated as Putana. So my question is, if Krishna wanted, Krishna would have forgiven Putana and I mean to say Raja Bali's sister at that point of time.
If he wanted to kill.
No, if he wanted to forgive Krishna.
Forgive, okay.
Yeah. But still, he did not forgive Raja Bali's sister, but she had to reincarnate as Putana and then get the liberation from Krishna. So
liberation for Putana.
Yeah, from the Putana. So I want to understand from what all are the things when Krishna actually forgives and what all are the things when he does not forgive.
Okay. Now, I am not in a position to command Krishna and tell him when to forgive and when not to forgive. However, these are all the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. By her karma, she had to again take birth as Putana. What is really wonderful to see and what we should appreciate is that in spite of being Putana and in spite of having such bad qualities, Krishna still had mercy on Putana. What to speak of practicing devotees who are assembled here who are having a level of sincerity in chanting the holy names of the Lord. I'm not saying that many of us could be pure devotees and chanting the names of the Lord purely, but still there is a very sincere intent while chanting. So therefore, the Putana story is created for us not to understand the aspect of what Putana was in her previous life, but for us to understand how great the process of Krishna consciousness is when he can give liberation to even Putana. What about all of us? Do we have faith enough? Faith in the process of Krishna consciousness enough? Many times I think devotees tell me, Prabhu, I am so fallen. I may take another 100 lifetimes before going back home, back to Godhead. I will never go back home, back to Godhead. Please do not say that. practice your Krishna consciousness sincerely. And the parampara, individually, none of us are capable, but collectively, we are all extremely capable and blessed by the strength of the parampara. We will, at the end of this lifetime, go back home, back to Godhead. So let us have that firm faith in the strength of our spiritual masters, in the strength of Srila Prabhupada, and in the strength of the parampara. And practice Krishna consciousness very sincerely. Krishna is only looking for our sincerity. If he sees our sincerity, the rest the parampara will take care. In one of the conversations that I had with my spiritual master, he had this habit of going to the beach, laying in the sun, and as he is laying in the sun, he would ask me to read from Bhagavad Gita or any other scripture which he. So my job was to sit with him and read. He loved the sun, but I didn't love it very much. But still, I have to show tolerance because it's a service to spiritual master. So therefore, when I was reading, he made a very, very important point once. He said, it's one thing to think that a sannyasi is a pure devotee of the Lord and he is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. That is one thought process, which is scripturally right as well. But the other aspect is, he said, the very fact that we are all in the material world, you and me, means that we are fallen. But one thing I am sure, if we hold on to the dhoti of our spiritual master, who is holding the dhoti of Srila Prabhupada, when I am leaving this world, he will pick me up there, and if I am picked up there, I am sure I will pick you up also. So that is the process of Krishna consciousness. Let's kind of inspire ourselves in the association of devotees to take up this process very sincerely. And our sincerity will be the winner at the end of this lifetime. So why Putana got that earlier life and why he had to wait for another lifetime as Putana before getting the mercy is, of course, for understanding. One can go into that, but let us try and appreciate that Putana did get the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Did I manage to cover up my lack of knowledge nicely?
Thank you, Prabhu. This is Janmashtami is preparation time for us. And, we are all struggling, practicing devotee, at least I can talk for myself. And two important things that I relate when you spoke was the hypocrisy that we have and the duality that we have. When we come together to do something, there's a friction, and how to deal with that thing that I'm doing the right thing, but the other devotee is not doing the right thing, and I'm being right and he's not right, and then taking a step back, not putting my 100% because I'm upset about something. How do we deal with that, and how do we overcome that so that we can do better?
Okay, first is frictions not only happen in the material world, frictions happen in the spiritual world as well. Okay? When Srimati Radharani is getting decorated for the pleasure of the Lord, yeah, note this carefully. All the gopis have different ways of doing it. She said, no, the kajal should be here. No, the bindi should be there. No, X number of bindis have to be there. No, I said, no, that will be too much. Krishna can't see the face of Radharani if you put so many bindis. So these differences of opinions always existed in the spiritual world as well. But what was the difference? The difference is the center of the focus of all activities was how should Krishna get the pleasure? So frictions can happen even among devotees. If it doesn't happen, there's something wrong with us. Because we are all individual souls, right? But in the interest of having a great celebration of Janmashtami, we should still leave the I out and keep the Krishna in at the center of all activities and continue our service. And whenever frictions of this kind are there in the mind, I've always seen one thing. Sometimes I wake up at 3 o'clock and there is disturbance, right? Many times, devotees thinks that he is senior, so he doesn't need anything from us. We have to take from him. No, we are also having a lot of problems. So we also have friends with whom we consult. So I wake up and then I'm not able to get sleep. So I have my shower and start reading either Bhagavatam, now Chaitanya Charitamrita. After so many years of Krishna consciousness, I still don't know Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I start reading Chaitanya Charitamrita for about 1 or 2 hours. Suddenly the mind gets calm and automatically Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam solutions come for the problems and I start feeling better. And then I go for my japa walk around the community, makes me feel a lot more better. And suddenly you feel that all the normal day-to-day, even material problems seems to get resolved easier and faster. Not because we prayed for that, but Krishna is facilitating you to resolve all those minor problems so that you can come home on time and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So don't give up the service because of minor frictions, because you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for Krishna. There will be frictions, that is pretty normal, and that is there in every sphere of life. Yeah. So, in fact, the friction will be more in the spiritual world. Many times, we get into spiritual life, and we think that there should be an ideal situation, right? And we get bewildered. What is this? I came to spiritual life for these things, and now I'm seeing something else. Yeah. So that is natural. Why? Because in the material world, you're working in a company, and the final authority is the boss. The boss says that this is the way it has to be done, everybody has to cooperate. Otherwise, you get the pink slip wearing pink dresses. Yeah, you're out of the job. So everything seems to be resolved. But here, the entry is free, and there's no way you can let anybody exit. So there will be friction. We have to resolve it by keeping Krishna at the center of all activities. It's difficult, I know it, but still we have to sincerely practice. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful class, very much touched by today's class. A lot of gratitude to you. really lot of realization I had today, that because like how you started the class by from Bhagavad Gita, and before coming to Buddha pastime, you covered the summary from the first chapter of it, can do everything you made it. And because then how I missed the previous Sunday feast kathas, and you have covered it and helping me to prepare for the Krishna Janmashtami. And many other wonderful points, Karuna, especially how you mentioned the three varieties of men who are purified by hearing the katha. And just the last point which you mentioned, Prabhu, is like how faith and conviction you have with your katha, you have represented how much faith you have in holy name and the Guru Parampara. We should, I will remind myself that that is the whole purpose of Krishna consciousness, that the faith we should develop in holy name and the Guru Parampara, and try to work sincerely towards this movement. Thank you so much. Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. It's all by the grace of spiritual master and the parampara that we are able to talk Krishna Katha. And I guess one strong lesson we all have to learn is to preach by example and also preach to others with an intent to touch their hearts. And if you have the mercy of Guru and the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, then they will get Krishna consciousness. The credit does not go to you. Credit goes to Guru Parampara. If you preach with that intent, the activity of preaching becomes a wonderful devotional service. Thank you, Mataji.
No. So we request you to please, if not our mistake, we should keep inviting you. Please keep coming to our center and give such material that and hand over to us.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Prabhu, for coming.